All right, welcome back to Real Estate Bites, everybody. This is episode 98 of Real Estate Bites. Been going at this nearly 2 years now. And today I want to talk about some things that are happening in the marketplace, both at a sort of a macro level all around the country and how things are happening here regionally. And I want to talk about OHFA, which is Ohio Housing Financing Agency, and what changes that they have made for first-time homebuyers. So to help me with this discussion, I'm bringing in my boy and friend of show, Jay Sloan. Jay,
Hey,
welcome back to Real Estate Bites, my friend.
hey, thanks for having me, brother. I appreciate it.
Of course,
Always
man.
glad to
So
be here.
I'm always glad you come on, man. I appreciate your time. So let's start with OHFA. Tell us what's going on with the changes that the Ohio Housing Financing Agency has made to their program.
Okay, so first let's get into what OHFA actually is. So it's the Ohio Financing Agency, and what they do is they provide first-time home buyers and repeat buyers with financing through a grant process known as down payment assistance. So the biggest changes that they made in their program is they used to give or allow people to get a grant for up to 5% that they could use not only for down payment but also to help with their closing costs. But because of the popularity of the program, just to give you an idea, in the state of Ohio, they closed over $1 billion in 2024. And this year they're looking to do a 1.5 billion in total down payment assistance program. So as the program grows, what they did is they made some changes to not allow or to remove the 5% option, but replace it with a more affordable, more aggressive rate option at 3% and 3.5 for conventional and 3.5% for FHA. So they moved out the 5% and reduced it. And now the rates are much better, whereas they were just completely uncompetitive to start the year for probably like the first 6 months of the year. So just to give you an idea, the 5% conventional option was at 8% for almost 6 months on a
Wow.
30-year fixed conventional mortgage. Okay. While rates have been 6.75 to 7.25 since the beginning of the year, fluctuating, right? Now, if you use their product, you can get as low as a 5.25 through the Heroes program on a conventional option, and as high as 6.25% if you use the full 3%. So it's
Okay,
pretty
so to
awesome.
reiterate for the folks out there listening, uh, OHFA is a state agency that is addressing housing affordability head on. They have been doing it for a long time, way before COVID. I'll tell you, I bought my house in 2008, and I was an OHFA customer. Um, and so, one of their specializations is down payment assistance, like Jay was talking about. They were given 5%. Now they've reduced that to 3.5%. Most likely, I'm assuming, Jay, because, well, there's only so much money allocated for this grant program that
Mhm.
OFA offers. And with the amount of increase in home values and prices that has gone on, that meant they were only able, the amount of people they were able to serve was more limited because those down payments were higher. So they scale back on the down payments so that they can serve more people. But in order to make up for that sort of lack of assistance with down payment, they've reduced the rates to
Mhm.
keep things more affordable. So
Yeah.
kudos to the state of Ohio and that agency for being proactive with this.
Right. And the thing is that it does have parameters. So this is, strictly for first time buyers. The rates that I'm talking about in the programs that I'm really talking about here they're really geared to more first time home buyers. They do have allowable, repeat buyer programs and things like that, but I want to more focus on what the most popular options are, which are the Heroes product, which you can do a government loan at a VA, FHA, or USD at 4.75%, meaning if you're a first responder, veteran, firefighter, medical, in the medical profession, or you're a teacher, which is insane. So that's if you do not use the grant money. And just to give you an idea of what that compares to, that's over 1% better. I mean, just the going rates on FHA in VA right now are the high fives, low sixes, depending on credit score, right? So all you need is a 650 credit score to qualify, and that can get you in the door of a much better rate if you have your own money. Now, one of the ways that agents and clients have been using this too, because of the NAR settlement, is I don't know if people know this out there, but you can use down payment assistance to help pay your agent. So especially in a situation where, like, let's say you're a buyer, you have your down payment and your closing cost, but you no longer have the ability to pay your agent. And some listing agents out there and some sellers are just refusing to pay the buyer's agent, right? So because it is now a cost to the consumer and the buyer, and it goes on your closing disclosure, you can now have your down payment assistance pay your agent because it is an actual cost to them and considered a quote unquote cost to the buyer. So it's on the closing disclosure and can be paid through closing through the program. So I've had clients use down payment assistance even to pay for closing costs, down payment, and to help them afford to pay their agent.
That's incredible. That's an excellent use of
I
that
can't hear
program.
you.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? No? Jay. Can you hear me?
I can't hear you.
How about now that I took those out? Can you hear me now? Oh. Looks like we lost Jay. What I'm going to do while Jay and I try to reconnect is I'm going to jump into this week's stats. We talked about OHFA. We wanted to talk about some more macro stuff that's going on in the marketplace. Jay got disconnected. And so for the here and now, let me jump into this past week's statistics. And when hopefully by the time I end, we can get Jay back on. If not, then we'll pick that up on a future edition of Real Estate Bites. All right, so let me drop this banner, and we're going to jump over into this next week's stats. All right, so here we are, episode 98. Indeed. Okay, so this morning, when I checked the inventory for Lorain County in the MLS, there were 480 single families and condos for sale in Lorain County. This past week, there were 87 closings, so 87 sold homes. The median square feet of those homes sold was 1,746. The median home sale purchase price was $312,500. Median square foot value was $170.51, continuing the trend of the elevated prices that we're seeing. Median days on market was 21. Again, that is going to market, advertising, showing, soliciting, and then negotiating and accepting an offer, and then moving through the contingency period before it's considered off market. So only 3 weeks to go through that process was the median time frame for homes that sold last week. This morning, when I looked at mortgage, the mortgage website that I look at, 6.82% was the cost of money when borrowing for a 30-year conventional mortgage. And then the big sale of this last week was $785,000 in Avon Lake. Let's go ahead and take a look at this home. All right, this is over on Brunswick Ave in Avon Lake. Nice big home. You can see it's in great shape. Some of the finishes are dated, but this thing, it's a beautiful home, $785,000. And you could just imagine that if where we see some of the more dated finishes are brought up to a little more modern tastes or trends, then you're probably pushing $1 million with a property like this. I mean, we're at 3,000 square feet, nice big finished basement, a beautiful home. And some of the changes are like, in the dining room, if you have a hardwood flooring or even a vinyl LVT, something like that, a luxury vinyl LVT, a hardwood flooring that's maybe a little darker in color, these are the kinds of things that bring it up. I got to tell you too, if you're listing a $785,000 home out there, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and spring for a professional photographer. Okay. These pictures are not good, folks. And I'm sure this home is way more beautiful than what these pictures actually show. So if you're an agent out there and you got an opportunity to list a beautiful home like this, I mean, it don't even have to be an $800,000 home. If it's a $300,000 listing here in the Northeast Ohio market, you should be paying somebody to get you some quality photos. All right. Big vaulted ceilings. You got the balcony overlooking the living room. I do love what they got going on in the backyard. We'll get there. I love me some wainscoting too. I don't know why, but I'm a huge fan of it. I think it looks amazing. I think it's just a beautiful feature. Nice, big, huge bathroom. Here's your basement. So you got a big, beautiful finished basement, some nice finishes down here, nice wet bar, great place for entertaining, plenty of room for storage down here yet. Love the exterior. Absolutely love the outdoor fireplace and furnace, storage area. That's a really nice patio. Got a water feature there, nice and tranquil. Beautiful home, set at $785,000. All right. That's going to wrap it up for this week. We lost our guest. I'm going to get Jay back on because there were some things that we wanted to talk about with the marketplace. Buyer activity is way down. We wanted to explore why. We wanted to talk about what that might mean, what that might entail. You know, Lorain County is a little bit of a different animal, I've noticed. When I'm looking at when I'm doing my research for this program versus what I'm seeing in the general marketplace, Lorain County seems to be a place where, well, it's grown. It's one of the few counties that grew here in Northeast Ohio during the pandemic. You know, so people are moving out of more populated areas, also known as Cuyahoga County, and they're coming over to Lorain County for a little more space, a little more breathing room as these suburbs build up and you have a little more higher end shopping that's coming online here in Lorain County. You've got people who want to come here and be part of this growing suburbia and still have all of those sorts of amenities. But by and large, you know, whereas we were talking about with Jay pre-show, you know, we're seeing activity that shows that buyer activity is going way down. It's not what I'm seeing when I do my statistics here for the show in the MLS. Nevertheless, I'm going to get Jay back on here in the near future. We're going to talk about that kind of stuff. Until then, and as always, take care of yourselves, take care of one another. I love you, people.